Anyone at school who had seen my videos on YouTube that weren't my friends had been quite nasty. So like I had this like I had my guard up a little bit about it. What's up, man? How you doing? You good?
I'm good. I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, good, man. Good. I'm feeling pretty good at the moment. Got the album coming out next week, so like just super busy, just doing
Oh,
loads.
I bet, man. I had a chance to hear it. I love it. It's such a
Oh,
great.
thank you, bro. Thank
Yes, I
you. Appreciate
really
it.
like. A f I mean, I like all the songs. I think two of my favorite ones you haven't put out yet, so that's exciting.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So when I was going through it, there's a one song. I just let me find the name of it. Almost killed me.
Oh, hell
It's like
yeah. Thank
that's
you.
probably the heavy. It's like heavier. Not. It's not heavy, but it's like it's got more of like instead of like the very
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like acoustic-y pieces. It's like comes in pretty like
Yeah, I feel like it comes in straight away. Like there's songs like there's another song called More Than Me that starts acoustic and then gets real heavy, but
mhm.
Almost Kill Me is like right off the bat, it's like straight in, which is
Yeah,
really cool, actually. I'm
I
really
love
excited.
that one and All My Everything are I think
All My
those 2.
Everything, yeah. Yeah, All
I
My
love
Everything. I feel like out of all the unreleased ones, All My Everything is I think actually that I think apart from the album title song, I think that one was the second to be written. I
Oh, is
think.
that right?
But yeah, it came quite early in the process of like this
Oh,
process.
peace. Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear all about it. This is about you and, not only the album we'll talk a lot about, but I wanna hear kind of your origin story of how you got into music and, how this whole thing kind of, has really blown up. I mean, it's amazing. You're an incredible songwriter and talent and everything else. So I'd love to hear kind of your story about all of this.
Yeah,
So
cool.
yeah, so born and raised England. Is that what I saw? Like
Yeah,
around.
that's right. Born and raised in England in on the south coast, so between uh Brighton and Eastbourne, Bexhill way in the UK. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. Do you come from like a creative household, a musical family at all, or?
No, neither of my parents were really musically inclined. They both loved music, but no one was creative. My uncle was in a band when I was young, when I was probably I don't know if before I was born or maybe whilst I was getting growing up, but I wasn't really influenced by that because it was I was too young to really recognize that. And I think we've actually bonded more as adults who like music than that. I
Oh,
think.
what did he do in like was his band like a successful thing or I mean success to like a
I
commercial
think it
extent,
like,
or was it just like
I think it was sort of like they were he made he made music in a genre called shoegaze, which is like was quite a semi big thing at the same time. I don't know my history of it, but around the same point as Britpop was popping off in the UK in the 90s, I feel like it was sort of like a alt version, not like an alt version, but like sort of the counter to
yeah,
that.
counterpart to it? You're right on.
A culture to that. That I could be wrong though, like I could genuinely be wrong. I'm not as well versed in it, and that made it quite indie and niche. But I think in the city, which is this, he went to university here in Brighton, where I live now.
Okay.
Um, he was I think very well respected in the city, and I think him and his band are actually still I think they're doing some stuff now. They've regrouped and doing some stuff now, which is pretty cool. But
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't really I didn't wake up sorry, I didn't grow up in a particularly creative or musical household. I just think I loved making noises and singing and all of that. And I just yeah, I quickly aligned myself with whatever my older sister or older brother were listening to, at a young age, and just did whatever, just wanted to be like them. So
Sure. Did they play at all, or were you the only
um
one?
so I was the only one who really took it seriously. My brother actually got a guitar, I think at this that for this at the same Christmas that I got drums, and he was a lot better at guitar than I was at drums at that time, and I think he got into different things and took a different path in life. But I I just feel like I think music was always an outlet for me in some way, whether it was listening to it or singing along to it or playing, beating the drums to it when I was really, really young, or as I've got older, songwriting and stuff. Like it's always been like a big part of my life that's sort of taken me to like a place that calms me, you know.
Mhm. So you got drums at what age? How old are you when you got your drum kit?
think I think I was about 10. I think it was either my birthday or Christmas, around 10 years old,
Mhm.
because I hadn't finished primary school, which is elementary school over there in the States.
Sure.
I was, you know, you before you go to,
Middle
yeah,
school or whatever it
middle
is.
school and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
So
different.
so you got drums, were you, and that was your first instrument? You just wanted to get drums or and that's
Yeah,
awesome that your
all
parents went with that.
yeah, right. It's funny, like, um it's funny actually, like all my classmates, like all my best mates, one of them decided to start drumming from a young age, maybe about 6 years old. And then we slowly all just copied each other, and we all like the drummer gang, but we couldn't make a band because we were all drummers, you know what I
All
mean?
drummers, which is rare. Most it's like
Which is,
always everyone plays guitar, and then it's like
yeah.
the one drummer in town can have the pick of any band or any person they want to play
Yeah,
with
it's really
because
interesting. When I was growing up, I feel like at least where I was, like guitar wasn't considered the coolest instrument. It was always drums. And I also think for some reason, like I also liked skating from a young age, and like for
skateboarding.
some skateboarding, yeah,
That's what I did as a
from like
kid.
yeah, from like 10 till like 15, I was skating and stuff and BMXing and going to skate park doing whatever. And there was something about drumming that felt like it slotted into that culture somehow.
Mhm.
I think that was just my path in life, was I just like that, doing that sort of stuff. And um I don't know. Maybe it was like people like Travis Barker that sort of sit like are intertwined in that. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I
No,
don't know.
100%. I was gonna say 'cause for me, I grew skateboarding is what was kinda like the unlock this door to music that I hadn't ever been exposed to in a way where, like, I get the old VHS tapes of, like, the Toy Machine videos or the Zero videos, and I would hear, Iron Maiden for the first time or the
Right.
Misfits or even, like, Far Side or some hip hop. I'm like, "What is this?" Descendants, like and that's what got me into music. Like, I started to see these video parts with these songs in it, and then, it all kind of it really did mesh together in a way with
Yeah.
skateboarding and
Yeah,
music.
it's true, and I think I actually my favorite video game franchise really ever is the Skate franchise, and they're actually
Oh,
making a
sure.
new one soon, which I'm super excited about. But I actually I found I found like a lot of my musical taste came from those games
Mhm.
and skateboarding, and yeah, you're right, like watching those old videos, um, watching like I know the Thrasher videos growing up and like
Yeah, like, the
all that.
Transworld videos always had good
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it's crazy. I've never actually
playlists or
thought
whatever.
about this side of my I think that was me discovering music because, as I said before, I was listening to what my older siblings would listen to, and my older sister would listen to like R&B and stuff like that. She'd listen to Usher and she'd listen to Chris Brown. She listened to Justin Timberlake. She listened to all that like sort of North and Beyonce and Rihanna and all that sort of pop R&B that was really successful in the early 2000s. I was like
Mhm.
all into that, and I think that's how I learned to sing. But I think the music that I really loved by the time I was 16 was more hip hop based. I listened to loads of Tyler the Creator. It was around the time that Kendrick Lamar dropped Good Kid, Mad City,
Mhm.
and um, Drake had Take Care a couple years before, and I really liked the Weeknd's trilogy album and all that stuff around 16. And I think that's where I really, but actually at the same time, um, in more like and I think at the same time, I think when you're young, you're just so open to everything. You're just like, wow, there's all this,
Whatever's
and I'm just
yeah.
like
You're
just
not
like
genre
taking it all in.
specific.
There was all of that stuff, but then I was really enjoying that first Ed Sheeran album so much. I thought it was amazing, and like the fact that he was like becoming a pop star and he didn't have that classic pop star image. Um,
Mhm.
I found that really cool as a little kid that wasn't like specific, like overly uh confident and stuff. Like it felt nice to see someone who wasn't exactly the quote unquote um
Like,
poster
yeah,
child
heart
what
throb type. Yeah, it
oh,
wasn't a Justin Bieber guy kid,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
Yeah.
and but I also love Justin Bieber as well, and I loved pop music. I loved, music of that music of that nature. I think at that age, I was just so it was so eclectic and, yeah, but it is interesting, but, like, yeah, I got a lot of the rocky stuff from my older brother. He liked people like Linkin Park.
Mhm.
Um, he also loved Paramore, and Paramore were, like, amazing, like, they were just so sick back then, like,
Oh, yeah.
Misery Business and all that. There was so much great music around when I was a kid.
Super cool. So you did drums, and then how long did you play drums? Did you play in a band, or like what was kind of your musical progression
Well,
from getting that drum set?
I played drums and had lessons for maybe like a year and a half, 2 years, and I think I quickly discovered that I wasn't really, um I never really enjoyed things when I had to be taught them, if that makes sense. Like, I found it really hard
Yeah.
to be taught. I had, like, low patience
Well, kinda
and
turns you off to it, right? You're like, "Now this is
yeah,
more like a
you're like, now it's
chore
like a
than it
chore,
was
right?
but
Like,
just going and having fun."
I love swimming, but, like, I hated having swimming lessons. I clearly love songwriting, but I hated English and, like, learning, like, English literature and all of that stuff.
Right.
But, like, it's funny, like, once you learn things on your own accord when you learn things on your own accord, they s that at least for me, they stick with me, and that's why when I, um, listened to the Ed Sheeran album at 16, I was like, "I'm gonna teach myself how to play the guitar," and I made a conscious decision to not get a teacher. Even though perhaps I would have got better quicker, I felt like at that age, I was like, it's my turn to teach myself something. If I need to find something out, I can go on YouTube. The
Mhm.
internet is my friend now. And, actually the way I learned was because of drumming, I had an internal rhythm that was there.
Sure.
So I don't think that really leaves you. And, actually, I think that helped my strumming and stuff, like, I already had that down, I could do it, and I used to tap on the tables at school, and, like, rhythm just came naturally to me. I was really, really lucky to have that from a young age, but, all I had to do is look up where my fingers had to be placed for online, and I looked at diagrams. I never actually went on YouTube really early on. I would just
Oh,
look
like
at
the
diagrams of
tabs and
yeah,
stuff?
yeah, and I'd look
Yeah.
at where the things were, and I just figured it out and muddled my way through, and it meant that my progression at the start was really slow,
Mhm.
but I got to a certain point by the age of, like, 19, 20, where I was able to pick things up. It took me a long period to get to, like, a pretty basic part. Then after that, I've got a lot better. I'm not saying that I'm, like, the world's best guitarist by any means. I'm very far off that, and I've never been, like, a shredder or anything like that. Like, all of that technical stuff I can't do, but I feel quite proud of the fact that I've been able to teach myself how to play guitar. Like, it's not been something that I've had to fork out loads of money for. It's just been, you know,
Yeah,
just
something you
figured it
wanted to
out at my
do,
own
and yeah,
pace.
yeah, you
I
figured
think
it
that's
out.
why I'm still doing it, 11 years later is because I didn't have the love kicked out of me from beating
Sure.
myself up because every week I'd have to learn something new, whereas if you do it at your own pace, these things are so much easier, so
Mhm.
much nicer.
And when were you like, when you started, you pick up a guitar and you're learning it yourself, are you using the guitar as like a vehicle to write your own music? Or like, is that what you wanted to do, was write your own songs?
Yeah, well, it all came quite naturally. Honestly, when I started playing the guitar, do you know what? I honestly don't think I consciously decided to become an artist. I think it was just something that I think I needed to express as I was getting older. I was going through more things, and I was like, I need to write about this.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, it became a tool. Learning the guitar became a tool massively for my songwriting. But as I say, like, not overly consciously, but just as a matter of fact, yeah, I think it did become that. Um, but yeah, really, really pleased that that actually did happen because I think if I hadn't learnt the guitar, perhaps I wouldn't have got into songwriting
Mhm.
because it was just like the tool that was made me able to do it on my own without any other outside people or anything. I think it helped me hone the first, like, or at least like sort of fuel the flames of the first, like, starting embers. You know what I mean, of my songwriting.
Sure. And I mean, fairly recently is when you have this cover song kinda go wild, right? As far as like viral success and everything else. But before that, you had, I mean, even just going off your Spotify, I mean, you've been releasing songs just to Spotify since 2017. I mean, you have, what, 7 years of doing this, right?
Yeah.
So so you're learning guitar, you're kinda writing when do you start writing songs and putting them up online, and what was kinda like the first like, did you have any, like, validations early on? Like, "Oh, wow, like, Sam's good at this, you should can carry
Yeah,
on with this."
the way it happened was it all started on my 16th birthday, right? At this point, I couldn't play the guitar. My dad had got me a guitar for my birthday on my 15th birthday, but I hadn't touched it. And I'd actually just got a ukulele for my 16th birthday. And I thought that'll help me. I'm finding this hard. I'm gonna
Mhm.
do that ukulele and maybe I'll push that to the guitar. I learned a couple things on the ukulele and I was like, oh, this is cool. Anyway, it was my 16th birthday, and I was in like the center of my city that I live in now, Brighton, and I had spent all any birthday present money. It was all gone, and I went into this hat. Sorry, I went into this shop and I saw this hat that. And I've always been I'm not wearing one now, but like I'm like a serial hat lover. Like I've got like hundreds and hundreds of hats now. And at this point, I probably had one, and this was going to be my second hat. And
I was gonna
I
say, yeah, most of your photos, you're in a hat.
yeah, I'm trying to be a bit more proud about my hair because I think that, one day I might not have it. So,
And you
you know
have
what I mean?
nice hair, yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
have to
So I'm
cover
saying
mine,
like,
mine's thinning out, so
yeah, might thinning out a little bit at the top, but I think I've learned to, as I've got older, to embrace that because we're men and it happens to people all the time. You know what I mean? I used to hide behind the hat for so long, but yeah. Anyway, I was I was in this shop and I couldn't afford this hat, and I went to my friends. I was like, "Can any of you like spot me some money or anything? Can I like borrow some money?" They were like, "No, we're children. We're not giving you our money. We need it for the bus home." And so I was like, okay. And they were like, well, at this point, I'd like posted little tiny covers on YouTube, and only my like closest friends really cared or knew about it. They weren't like breaking the internet or anything like that. And they're like, oh, you should go like sing out on the street like that kid was doing like down the road, like earlier on in the day that we saw. And I was like, oh, I'll do it. So I put my current hat down and I sang some of my favorite songs at the time. And I needed to make £25. And within like 20 minutes, I'd done it. And I was like, oh, this is like, oh, we're cooking. This is crazy. So I went back into the shop. I bought the hat, and then every weekend I would go like every week. And like at that point, like I didn't really want to how do I say it? At that point, I really didn't want to ever sing in front of anyone I knew because I found it quite cringy, and anyone at school who had seen my videos on YouTube that weren't my friends had been quite nasty. So like I had this I had my guard up a little bit about it.
yeah, I mean,
Um
it's so vulnerable, right? And then
yeah,
and kids are mean and
kids are so mean,
yeah,
dude.
it's
Kids
yeah.
are so mean. And but like busking was brilliant because I never had to see any of these people ever again. And if they didn't like me, like they're not gonna go up to a kid and like be nasty, are they? They're just gonna maybe say something to their friend. No, I won't hear it. Ignorant
Right. They
bliss.
just won't throw a dollar in or whatever.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss. And that really taught me how to perform. And then over years and years of doing that, I was like writing music, and then I started playing that music on the street. And then I partnered up with my friend Ren. You may have heard of him. He's quite big on YouTube now. And we bussed together, and that just went crazy. And videos of us started going viral here, there, and everywhere on Facebook and YouTube. And then we'd only partnered up to busk. We hadn't really got any material, and we both wanted to be solo artists. So we sort of used the platforms that we got from that to create our own thing. And I went my way, he went his, and we're still really good friends. And I'm super proud of him. But I'm now in a place where, at that point, I'm now turning 21, 22, and life is really lifing. I'm get like things are
Mhm.
really happening in my life that like real shit. Like I'd lost friends, and I was starting to become a man and starting to engage with subjects and things that were happening in my life that were very adult. And I felt like that was my time to start songwriting. And that's when I wrote a lot of my really important earlier stuff. And then yeah, fast forward to I think like 2021, you're at I'm in my living room actually on this very sofa that I'm still on right now, in the same living room, and I was like, "Oh, I want to do that a cover of Bruno Mars's "Talking to the Moon." That's like a really good song that I love from when I was younger. When it was one of the songs that my sister really liked off
Mhm.
the Tips and Hooligans album. I would always, honestly, I would always get all my CDs and stuff from my sister. I'd always just whatever she bought, I would listen to, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I've seen someone I don't know if anyone's covering that, but, like, people know that song because it's off that really iconic album." I'm sure others had done really good covers of it before, but there was something about whatever it was, and it just took off in a way that, I've had things take off before, but nothing like that, and it felt like, "Oh, I've got this is like a real platform. I'm not just known as the guy who was busking with that other guy on the street, and I'm not just the guy who did this." I was like, oh, this people are like flocking to my Instagram and stuff for my voice.
Mhm.
Um, and then yeah, and I guess that's when it really kicked off for me. Yeah.
Yeah, so with that cover, I mean, did it kind of you put it up on TikTok, right? And then did it go off, like, immediately, or was it something that you just weren't thinking anything of and go back and check your phone, you're like, "Whoa, I've, like, a bazillion notifications, like, what is happening right now?"
Yeah, well, it was interesting. So, um, actually, the video never really blew up on TikTok.
Mhm.
Like, it actually blew up on Reels. Reels went it
Oh,
was
on Instagram
crazy.
Reels.
This was, like, around about a year after they'd introduced Reels, maybe a little bit less. Like, I'd seen a lot of progress in my Reels,
Mhm.
TikTok as well during lockdown, but when they introduced Reels, I was like, "Oh, this is really working for me." Like, for the maybe it'd been like a few months. Honestly can't remember the timeline, but, it really blew up on Reels. And then obviously, a few months later down the line, it blew up, with that remix, the Junior Choi remix.
Yeah,
Then that took over TikTok
TikTok.
and Instagram. But actually, it wasn't until this year, a few like a few months ago, that I posted a video and it truly went viral on TikTok of me singing that song,
Mhm.
which is actually a common misconception. Everyone thinks it was TikTok, but really it was actually Reels. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and that's why when it blew up on TikTok again, no, well, sorry, it blew up again, but this time on TikTok, I was like, oh, I really must release my version of this, like my full version.
Yeah, and that's the most recent one that you put out, right? Yeah, is the
Right.
full cover.
Yeah.
Did Junior Choi, like, did he just you said he remixed the video, did you know him, or did he just find it and just did his piece to it, and that also because that also gained a lot of,
Yeah, well,
eyes.
in all honesty, that whole process was quite confusing. Uh, it came out. I didn't really realize it'd come out, and then my name wasn't on it for a long period of the time it was blowing up. So like people were tagging me in it. I was like, oh wow, and we had to sort it out and figure
Oh, I
out
bet. Yeah.
figure out a lot of stuff. And like I think there was certain parties within the discourse of that situation that were new to to the industry and what was okay and what was not okay. So there was definitely some discrepancies, but I'm proud of that song and I'm proud of its achievements. But there was points where I thought that I was, there was little points where I was being threatened to not be on the song, and they would switch me out, and certain people were saying certain things. So it's a bit of a touchy one. But now that I've got this version out, so it basically meant with that, it felt like, oh, but I started to believe it, and I was like, oh, perhaps like I'm actually a little bit replaceable, and like people don't really want to hear my version of it. So I sort of put it to the wayside. But as I said, when it blew up this time, I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
People do want this because everyone's like going, "Oh, this is the guy from that remix. I thought it was Bruno Mars all this time. Oh, it was a cover of that Bruno Mars song. I can't believe it. I want to hear the full version." So I was like, "Oh, I'll put it out." And then my thing is like, it doesn't have to blow up straight away. But now I
Mhm.
know this has this thing. If I one day post a video about it and it just goes crazy, at least when it does, people will be like, have something to refer back to, and be like, "Oh, this is the full version of the sample from the Junior Joy to the Moon song." So
Yeah.
feels
But
pretty cool.
you have, and obviously that happens and that's a cover, but you have your own songs that have all of them are millions upon millions of plays, right? I mean, did you feel like were you concerned or at all like, "Oh, am I just gonna be known as this guy that did this cover?" Or like, I mean, because
Yeah.
or you already had pretty massive songs on Spotify even before that, correct?
In fairness, like, I think it's difficult because it's all dependent it's all subjective, right? To
Mhm.
me, at that point, I was doing really well, but then I saw a song like To the Moon, and that's done some stuff that I wouldn't I have none of my music has touched yet, and that's okay. Like, I'm totally fine with that because that was everywhere at the time. Like, that song was just everywhere. But it gave me a little like a pinch of what that felt like. And
Mhm.
I think when I saw that, I was like, right. And I worked out what it was that people liked about my voice. And it was like a little bit of the falsetto, a little bit of vibrato and stuff, and like ascending and like ascending melodies that felt a bit I don't know what the word is, but a use of that certain level of my voice where it's like
Mhm.
somewhere in my falsetto head voice. And that's why I wrote a song called Lose It All, which is now
Mhm.
like my most streamed
Yeah,
solo.
that one's got million,
Yeah.
20, 30 million
Yeah, it's like
streams
something
too.
crazy. And it still gets streamed so much every day. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's why I wrote that song, because I was like, right, wow, like that's what people want. Um, and I made a conscious decision to try and fit those little moments in my album a lot, but also at the same time try and figure out ways of keeping it interesting and not just being the ballad guy, not just being the guy that just writes these somber songs on the piano and guitar. And I wanted to add production and stuff and liven it up, so that's why this album sounds the way it does. But I think there was a part of me that was really nervous that Talking to the Moon was gonna just be the be all and end all for me. But when
Mhm.
I wrote Lose It All, I instantly knew. I was like, wow, this is something special. This is different,
Mhm.
so
And do you at that point, are you getting reached out to by people or managers and all of that stuff? I'm sure
yeah,
like,
well, actually, before this, I'd found my manager, and we're like best friends, so that was perfect. Like, that was really nice because I didn't have to. Nothing changed. It
Mhm.
wasn't a big deal. Like, when this happened, we were prepared for it, and I had a really good system around me, and that was why when things were kicking off between me and the other camp on that song, I had like a really strong foundation behind me that were like pushing. So
Uh-huh.
otherwise I just would have fallen to the wayside if that, like, I would have
Sure.
been all over, and I'm glad that we weren't.
Yeah.
Um and but like when Lose It All was written, I was like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna be that guy. I might be the Lose It All guy, but I won't be the Talking to the Moon guy. Which is good. And I
Yes.
hope that that's how I can continue to do it. I don't want to be typecasted by anyone for anything, but I would rather it be at least a song that I wrote, and
Right.
have.
No, 100%. Yeah. I was going to say, at least, yeah, if you're a lose it all guy, yeah, at least, yeah, like you
Yeah,
said, you're not going to be, but
yeah,
that's your song, right? You wrote the
yeah,
song,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
you, everything is
Precisely,
you. So, uh,
precisely. Okay.
so going into I guess tell me about this album now. So, and it's awesome that you had it wasn't like you just did this cover on your couch and then it does well. And then it's like, okay, well, who is this guy? And like, you had other you had been doing it. It wasn't like some fluke accident that came to you and was like, here you had songs, you had already been songwriting. So you have a catalog of music that people could go back and hear anyway, right? I mean, so it was like you were like prepared when this moment had happened.
Yeah.
So so tell me about going into this album. I mean, you've sold out a bunch of shows. I was going to ask you about this picture you have on Instagram to dad. We did it. Love you, Sam. I mean, that's he must be a huge supporter of what you're doing, obviously.
Yeah, he really was. He sadly died in November, and that's
Oh my
why.
gosh, man, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay, it's okay. He had a lot of struggles with a lot of inner issues with his mental health, and that's why I think I make music about the stuff that I make, because he is because he sorry he was so um open about how he struggled, and
Mhm.
yeah, he dealt with a lot of stuff, but he was a huge supporter of what I do and did, and I know he's still up there supporting me. But yeah, when I'd gotten to this point where, you know, I'd written Lose It All, and Lose It All had the success that it did, I was like, that was when I realized I had been writing an album, and I had been, you know, and that ended up being the first single for the whole album.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it got to a point where I realized by the end of making it, I had written the title track "Hi, My Name Is Insecure" first. That was the very first song that I wrote for it. Um, and I realized by the end of making it that that was like the title. And I think, well, I realized it a little bit before, but once all these songs are pieced together, it wasn't just what the song was about, which was, you know, being at a party and introducing yourself to a person and then being your crutch at a party. It felt more like the statement, "Hi, my name is Insecure," which is for me like I often think, and I use this comparison a lot in this situation. Have you watched 8 Mile?
Yes, I love that movie.
You know in the rap battle at the end when he starts saying like, "You're gonna call me this, 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 this," and he sort of takes the power away from the person he's battling by
Uh-huh.
saying all the things that he knows he's gonna use as
Use
fuel,
against them.
bash him with. And I think what this album's become is like for me that term, "Hi, my name is Insecure," is me saying, yeah, I'm insecure, and like you can't really poke holes at me with that now. I'm
Mhm.
owning that and I'm empowered by that. And that's what this album that's what this album for me feels like it's about. And yeah, over time I think it became me going from, it's like little things like how I'm trying not to wear hats as much these days. I'm trying to like feel a bit like, you know, you get to a certain age where you're like, this is the person I'm gonna be for the rest of my life. Like this is what I look like, this is my body, and this is who I am. And I love myself for that, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's where how this album came together, because I was sort of becoming a man. People say that you become technically a man at 21, but I think it's more about 25 to 27 where you really become who you are. And at
No,
least
yeah, 100%.
that's
For
how I
me,
feel. That's how
I'm
that's
almost
how I
40. I
feel.
think I'm still trying to figure
Yeah, I feel like you're constantly growing, but I feel like the last 3 or so years have been really testing at times, and I think that's tested my manhood, and it's tested me as just an adult and a human being that's um no longer under the veil of childhood. You know, like I'm my own person. I'm responsible for everything that I do, and that means anytime I mess up or anytime that I do great, that's because I've made it that way. You know, I've made the decisions that have happened like within reason. You know, but yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, "See Me" is such a vulnerable song in itself. I mean, that you really dive into a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
Insecurities and everything.
For sure, yeah. See Me was came from a therapy session with my well, like a life coaching session, and we were talking about why I suffer so badly with insecurities around my body, and we discovered there was like we pinpointed a time in my life where it happened, where that not the epicenter of it, but something that was like the catalyst for a lot of my feelings.
Mhm.
And it involved another person, and she told me to write a letter to that person, but instead I wrote that song, and that's how that came to be. And it was like, wow, you know, I've written this song that I'd never really spoke about these issues before. I thought, you know, men didn't really speak about that sort of thing. So I never heard a man talk about their body issues on a song before. I'd only ever heard women, you know, like
Sure.
songs. Christina Aguilera's Beautiful. Like, I don't think there was a male version for that. So See Me felt like a really poignant thing for me at least. It was really important that I wrote that song, you know.
Was it difficult to put songs out like that with that are that, vulnerable?
Definitely definitely at certain points, at one point or another, these songs are always going to be hard. But I think I've built a fan base to this point um, where I think they accept me for me, so I'm not as nervous anymore to do that. You know?
Yeah, as I've had other artists on that talk about that, it's those songs that where you are or not you, but when someone is that direct or like, I don't think anyone else is gonna be able to relate to this, and then you write it out, like, so personally that then that's when you're getting the, "Oh my gosh, I feel the same exact way as you."
Yeah, and it's so validating when you get that. You know, like people are. Um, people like and the community that I've got, like they're so accepting of me, but they're also I feel like that through my music and other people's music that they listen to, I feel like and our generation in general is becoming so much more open to that, like
Awesome.
open to those feelings.
Mhm.
But yeah.
With this album, did you work I only got a couple more questions for you, and I, again, appreciate your time. Sam,
Okay.
thank you so much, man, for doing this. Did you work with, anyone different on these songs or on this album, like, going into it, or was it, pretty similar to how you had ever, had written in the past?
Um yeah, to be honest, this was when I really started collaborating with other writers and producers and stuff, and not just forcing myself to write everything on my own. I discovered a lot about collaboration on this album, which is funny because this song is called "Hi, My Name Is Insecure," not "Hi, Our Name Is Insecure." But like all the concepts really like they come from my feelings and like it is autobiographical and but like I felt like before there was shame to writing with other people, whereas I've realized now there's absolutely not. Like my music is still mine because it's sang by me and like I feel I don't put anything on record that I don't feel personally or have seen people feel or have experience in that situation. So I definitely wrote a lot of music with a lot of amazing people. I'm so grateful that I got to do that. But I think this time round, if I ever write another album, I figured out now who my people are. So I would probably, instead of just going on blind dates, as we call them, I would
Mhm.
probably just hit up the people I've become closest to on this process and write the next album.
Very cool, man. Well, I love the album. I
Thank
so
you.
excited for you to have it come out here, what, I think in, like, a week or so, right? I mean, 2 weeks
Yeah,
maybe.
it comes out in
20
10 days or something
10
crazy.
days, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm doing a lot at the moment, but I'm super excited about the whole thing. Like I'm excited about the release week and just like it finally being there and just hearing what people think of the whole body of work. Because it's one thing like throwing like singles out and being like, oh yeah, what do you think of this one song on its own without any context? But like when
Mhm.
people hear the whole thing, like the 16 songs whittled down from 250, like where I'm like writing like non-stop for like 3 years and you go this is the best of the bunch and I really hope you guys like it and we people
Yeah,
actually hear it, it's actually crazy, it's kind of gonna be insane.
that's awesome, and you're doing a really cool thing with the like, you're playing a bunch of record stores, right?
Yeah, in the
I
UK
love that.
it's quite normal in the UK because I guess mainly because it's such a small country that you can go to all these territories and like visit all these different people and go and support the independent record shops and stuff, and because it's actually a really good thing that's happening I think in music at the moment is that people are buying physicals again in a
Mhm.
way they weren't about 10 to 15 years ago. Like we
Right.
were going the digital thing, but I think actually there's like a pushback and I quite like that. So it's cool.
Are you doing a vinyl for it?
Yeah, we've got vinyls. I actually have one. I'll show you. Two secs.
Oh,
It's the first one ever made. Two secs. Yeah, this was the I don't know if you can see this, but this was there we go. This was the first ever made.
oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So good.
Pretty cool. So yeah, I'm actually yeah, really excited about that because I always loved when I was younger, I used to love collecting vinyls and CDs and physicals and stuff. So yeah,
Amazing,
but
man. Yeah, I'm a huge vinyl collector, so I'm gonna have to grab that. And I
yeah.
appreciate your time, Sam. Thank you so much, man. I have
Thank
one more
you.
question for you before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Advice for aspiring artists is one, if everyone if if every record label is telling you it sucks and you should do something different and all these things are telling but you're like, if record labels and management and even friends or anything like that, if they're saying it's bad, but you know in your heart that it's good, just put it out. You know, um, if people are saying I don't get it, those words, not maybe that they think it's bad, but if people say they don't get it, that means that it's different. And when things are different, that means it turns heads. And when people turn their heads, because it's not the A&R at the label, it's not the manager that you want to get, and it's not the playlister or the radio plugger or this that are going to listen to your songs. It is the kid in their room that feels alone and needs help. And I think uh, if you do something different, then that kid has something that they can gravitate towards.
Bringing it backward.